The assassination of Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Iran has sparked fears of a wider war. Now, the world holds its breath to see what comes next, as Haniyeh's assassination represents a seismic shift in the dynamics of the Gaza conflict. His leadership has been pivotal in shaping the political strategies of Hamas. An assassination shrouded in secrecy, touted as the biggest hit, yet there are no claimants for credit. So who killed Ismail Haniyeh? You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. In the early hours of July 31st, Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh was killed in what is being reported as an airstrike in Tehran. He was in Iran to attend the swearing-in ceremony of its new president, Masoud Pezeshkian. While Israel has not publicly claimed responsibility for the targeted killings, Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran have pinned it on Israel. The question is, could Israel or could Mossad have done it without help? A New York Times report has claimed that an explosive device had been covertly smuggled into a guest house in Tehran where he was staying. The bomb, according to the report, was hidden in the guest house for approximately 2 months, and it was detonated remotely when Haniyeh was confirmed to be inside his room. The guest house, which was managed and protected by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, was located in a secure compound in northern Iran and had been used by Haniyeh during his visits to the Iranian capital.
So in the intelligence community, we call that pattern of life, right? So you develop a pattern of life, right? So you see, how does he travel from the airport to his compound, right? As I understand from the information I've received, he's staying in a compound or a location where he stayed before that he's felt safe, right? So you get those. Pattern of life movements. How does he travel? How many vehicles? Which vehicle is he in? Because he most likely travels in a convoy, right? Or a motorcade. So is he in the second vehicle, the third vehicle? All those things and pattern of life. When does he go to bed? Where does he sleep in the compound? All those things are going to be basically developed.
There was another report in Israeli media which said that US was involved in the attack with the help of Qatar. While all these reports are being put out from the so-called intelligence sources, the fact is that there is a clear motive to deflect. If the bomb was smuggled in, then there would have to be involvement of a neighboring or near-neighbor nation. There would certainly be involvement of Israeli allies and, of course, an insider hand. If it was an airstrike, then the missile could not have been launched from Israel because it would have been easily intercepted by Iran given the distance. Whatever is the reason, we'll have to wait for the Iranian version of the story. This breach in security represents a significant intelligence and security failure for Iran. The assassination threatens to escalate violence in the region and complicate ongoing ceasefire negotiations. Haniyeh, who had been involved in these negotiations, was a key figure in discussions to end the war in Gaza. However, the reluctance to claim responsibility for Ismail Haniyeh's assassination stems from a strategic desire to avoid immediate retaliation, manage diplomatic fallout, and maintain operational secrecy. This approach preserves plausible deniability and helps navigate the delicate balance of regional and international diplomacy. But what does this killing mean for Palestine, for the region, and for the future of negotiations between Israel and Hamas? Ismail Haniyeh was not just a key leader within Hamas, but also a significant figure in the broader Israel-Hamas conflict. His tenure saw a range of developments from military escalations to diplomatic efforts. His death introduces both uncertainty and opportunity in the region. Haniyeh was a central figure in Hamas's political bureau since 2017. He was considered a moderate voice within the organization. His diplomatic efforts, particularly in fostering relations with countries like Turkey, Iran, and Qatar, positioned him as a key negotiator and a bridge builder between Hamas and other stakeholders. Despite the United States of America's designation of Haniyeh as a terrorist in the year 2018, he was seen by many as an advocate for a diplomatic approach to resolve conflict with Israel. He was seen by many as an advocate for a diplomatic approach to resolve conflicts with Israel. Haniyeh's life story reflects his deep involvement in Palestinian politics and the resistance movement. Born in Gaza's Shati refugee camp in 1963, he became politically active during his university years, eventually joining Hamas during the First Intifada in 1987. His rise through the ranks saw him become a trusted aide to Hamas founder Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Over the years, Haniyeh survived several assassination attempts, demonstrating his resilience and commitment to the group's cause. His leadership in Gaza until 2017 and then subsequent role in international diplomacy of Hamas underscored his importance in both political and resistance spheres. The assassination of Ismail Haniyeh marks a critical moment in West Asia, potentially reshaping the regional landscape.
This is an extremely surgical strike. The intelligence required to be able to get that close to him, mitigate civilian casualties, and be able to accomplish it. I mean, let's be fair. This was the guy Hamas probably protected most. He probably had the biggest security detail. He had his own likely his own intelligence forces, making sure that he was safe. He was also in a foreign country. I mean, he lives in Qatar, Oman, and he was visiting Iran. So the IRGC was also going to be providing another layer of security to protect him, right? So to be able to get through all those layers of security and get to him, according to Iran, I mean, right now, this is an interesting situation, right? So Iran's the one that's claiming his death, and we have no corroborating evidence yet. But you're 100% correct. It's extremely surgical.
Haniyeh's death has dealt a significant blow to Hamas at a time when tensions are flaring across West Asia over the devastating war in Gaza. And it also raises questions about the future of negotiations between Israel and Hamas. As Hamas's political leader, he was a key interlocutor with international mediators during stalled hostage and ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas following the group's October 7 attack on Israel. The assassination of Haniyeh, reportedly orchestrated by Israel, may serve dual purpose. First, it may showcase Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's resolve to the Israeli public and position him to declare a victory as a prelude to winding down the Gaza conflict. Or it may set the broader stage for a broader escalation involving Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, certain factions in Iraq, and Iran. The possibility of dragging the United States of America into this widening conflict looms large, as Iran is likely to feel compelled to retaliate. The assassinations present a complex diplomatic challenge for the US. While the Biden administration has supported Israel's fight to self-defense, the escalation could undermine efforts to achieve a ceasefire and complicate US relations with key regional players. In the 24 hours since Haniyeh's death, negotiators Qatar and Egypt have criticized, and Israel, Turkey, and Jordan have condemned the strike. But heavyweights like Saudi Arabia and UAE have maintained a studied silence.
I said, I don't think war is inevitable. I maintain that. I think there's always room and opportunities for diplomacy, and I'd like to see parties pursue those opportunities. And certainly what we've seen along the border, the northern border with Israel, over time, that's been a concern of ours. Again, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we keep things from turning into a broader conflict throughout the region.
It also requires them to find reasons to come to an agreement, not to look for reasons to delay or say no to the agreement. And it's urgent that all parties make the right choices in the days ahead, because those choices are the difference between staying on this path of violence, of insecurity, of suffering, or moving to something very different and much better for all parties concerned. Now, again, I can't predict the effect, the impact of any one event on what comes next. I've learned over many years not to do that. But I think it remains manifestly the case that the ceasefire is in the interests of everyone. It's in the interest of Israelis. It's in the interest of Palestinians. It's in the interests of the region. So as long as everyone is focused on what their core interests actually are, I believe that not only will we keep working to reach a deal, we will reach a deal because it is simply imperative that we do so.
I think if Israel is in a situation that they cannot really accept or deny the situation, because if they accept it, and it means that an open declaration war because you are attacking another country's capital city, and therefore Israel is very much limited on that to accept. And on Israel also have committed similar assassinations previously and never accepted that they have done it. Although the world and the media knows that Israel done it, but they don't officially acknowledge that they have done it. So in terms of United States is walking a thin line between establishing a peace, possibly negotiation for Hamas captured Israelis, and therefore United States is also limited to accept or acknowledge who has done.
Will the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh create a significant vacuum in the group's political leadership? Khalid Mashal, a former leader of Hamas who survived an Israeli assassination attempt in 1997, is a likely candidate to succeed Haniyeh. Mashal, who currently resides in Qatar, is a seasoned leader and influential figure within the organization. Mashal's experience as the group's political leader in exile has allowed him to represent Hamas internationally, circumventing the travel restrictions that other leaders face. Following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, Mashal is expected to take on a more prominent role, with Hamas and Iran pledging retaliation against Israel. Also, the leadership of Hamas's military wing in Gaza remains unaffected. While Haniyeh served as a symbolic figure and was involved in political and strategic declarations, the real decision maker within Hamas has been Yahya Sinwar, who has been operating from Gaza and is calling all the shots there. The death of Haniyeh might cause Hamas to temporarily pause negotiations such as hostage deal talks, but it is unlikely to halt their operations entirely. Also, Sinwar had a disdainful view of Haniyeh and perceived the latter and others like him as disconnected from the militant and the jihadist roots of Hamas due to their lack of military experience and imprisonment. This assassination, therefore, may ease internal tensions and provide Sinwar with a more comfortable operating space. The internal dynamics of Hamas could be affected, as Haniyeh was seen by Sinwar as an impediment to his more militant agenda. Sinwar viewed the politically oriented leadership, including Haniyeh, as out of touch with the group's core mission. The assassination could exacerbate divisions between the Gaza-based leadership and the external leadership in Doha, further complicating Hamas's internal cohesion. Finally, on the impact on ceasefire negotiations, increased military pressure from Israel might not necessarily soften Hamas's position. Hamas has clear red lines, and that the addition of new demands by Israel, such as the retention of strategic corridors, could complicate ongoing negotiations. While Hamas is interested in a deal, it wants it on its own terms. And increased pressure might not lead to the desired concessions from the group. The death of Ismail Haniyeh is a significant event with wide-ranging implications for the Gaza conflict. From internal leadership struggles to shifts in military strategy and diplomatic relations, the future direction of the conflict will be shaped by how quickly and effectively Hamas stabilizes and adapts to this new reality. That's all in this edition of Statecraft. Thank you and goodbye.